Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at theories of romantic relationships, which you need to know for AQA A-level psychology in the subtopic of relationships. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. There are three theories of romantic relationships: social exchange theory, equity theory, and Rusbolt's investment model of commitment, satisfaction, comparison with alternatives, and investment. Social exchange theory. Social exchange theory, SET, developed by Tibor and Kelly, 1959, is an economic model of human relationships, particularly romantic ones. It views relationships as a cost-benefit analysis, where individuals aim to maximize rewards and minimize costs to maintain a sense of profit. Social exchange theory, SET, is based on the core assumption that humans are fundamentally self-interested, entering and maintaining relationships primarily for the benefits they receive. Individuals continuously evaluate their relationships by weighing the rewards such as love, companionship, sex, attention, support, gifts, intimacy, and security against the associated costs, which may include time, emotional strain, financial investment, loss of freedom, stress, effort, and conflict. A relationship is considered satisfying and worthwhile when the perceived rewards outweigh the costs. Conversely, when the costs begin to exceed the rewards, dissatisfaction tends to grow, increasing the likelihood of conflict and potentially leading to the breakdown of the relationship. Social exchange involves reciprocity. When one partner provides rewards, the other often feels obligated to reciprocate. Successful relationships depend on balanced exchanges, where both partners feel they are gaining something meaningful. If one partner perceives they are giving more than receiving, the relationship may feel imbalanced, leading to tension or eventual dissolution. Social exchange theory, SET, includes two key comparison levels that influence relationship satisfaction and commitment. The first is the comparison level, CL, which is a person's standard for satisfaction based on what they believe they deserve in a relationship. This standard is shaped by past experiences, personal ideals, and cultural or social norms. Someone with a high CL, often due to positive past relationships or high expectations, may feel dissatisfied if their current relationship doesn't meet their standards. In contrast, someone with a low CL, possibly due to negative experiences or low expectations, might stay in a less rewarding relationship if it still exceeds what they think they deserve. The second is the comparison level for alternatives, CLALT, which influences commitment by comparing the current relationship to possible alternatives, such as being single, finding a new partner, or gaining personal freedom. If the alternatives seem more rewarding, a person may leave the relationship even if it's somewhat satisfying. In short, CL affects how satisfied someone feels, while CLALT influences whether they stay or leave. Relationships are most likely to succeed when both partners perceive that the rewards they receive outweigh the costs, and when each person's outcomes exceed their individual comparison level, meaning the relationship meets or surpasses what they believe they deserve. Success is further supported when no better alternatives are available, or when the current relationship offers greater overall benefits than any potential options. Conversely, relationships may begin to fail when one or both partners feel they are investing more than they are receiving in return, when more attractive alternatives become available, or when the relationship becomes unbalanced, such as one partner shouldering more costs or providing significantly more rewards than the other. Social exchange theory, SET, outlines 4 stages in the development of a relationship, each shaped by ongoing evaluations of rewards and costs. The first stage, sampling, involves individuals exploring potential benefits and drawbacks through observation or initial interactions. Next is bargaining, where partners negotiate roles and exchanges, determining what each can offer and expect in return. As the relationship progresses to the commitment stage, a stable pattern of exchange develops, and partners become more focused on mutual benefits than constant evaluation. Finally, in the institutionalization stage, the relationship becomes more structured and predictable, with clearly defined roles and shared expectations guiding interactions. A strength of social exchange theory as a theory of romantic relationships is that it is supported by research evidence. For example, Sprecher, 2001, conducted a longitudinal study on dating couples and found that the comparison level for alternatives was strongly linked with relationship commitment. The presence of attractive alternatives was negatively correlated with both satisfaction and commitment. This supports SET's assumption that people assess their current relationship against possible alternatives, and that these comparisons can influence relationship stability. Therefore, this evidence increases the credibility of SET by showing that its core concepts reflect real relationship behaviors. A strength of social exchange theory is its ability to explain why some individuals stay in seemingly harmful relationships. Rusbult and Motz, 1995, found that abused women in refuges often return to their partners due to a lack of better alternatives, such as low education or job prospects. SET explains this by suggesting that the perceived profits, e.g. financial security or avoiding loneliness, still outweighed the costs for these women. This demonstrates the theory's real-world relevance and practical application, particularly in helping to design support strategies for those in abusive relationships. A strength of social exchange theory is that it forms the basis for later theories of relationships. For instance, equity theory and Rusbult's investment model build on the foundations of SET but add important concepts such as fairness and long-term investment. This shows that while SET may be limited on its own, it has provided a valuable framework for understanding romantic relationships and has influenced more comprehensive models. Therefore, SET has played a key role in the development of relationship psychology. A limitation of social exchange theory is that it assumes individuals make rational, calculated decisions in relationships. The theory is based on a profit and loss model, assuming people logically weigh up rewards and costs. However, romantic relationships are often driven by emotions rather than rational calculations, and this reduces the face validity of the theory. This suggests SET may oversimplify how relationships are formed and maintained by ignoring emotional and irrational behaviors. A limitation of social exchange theory is that it does not account for selfless or altruistic behavior in relationships. Mills and Clark found that communal couples give out of concern, not in expectation of reward, which contradicts the idea of tracking profit. This undermines the theory's assumption that people act only out of self-interest and expect reciprocation. Therefore, SET may lack external validity, as it may apply only to some types of relationships, such as casual or exchange-based ones, but not deep, emotionally committed ones. A limitation of social exchange theory is that the definition of costs and rewards is highly subjective. What one person sees as a reward, e.g. commitment, another might see as a cost. Also, over time, a perceived reward may become a cost. This makes it difficult to apply the theory consistently and to objectively measure relationship dynamics. As a result, SET may lack scientific precision, limiting its usefulness in explaining and predicting relationship outcomes. A limitation of social exchange theory is that it is culturally biased. The theory is based on Western, individualist values, where relationships are viewed as personal choices aimed at individual satisfaction. In contrast, collectivist cultures may prioritize family expectations or community benefits over personal gain, making SET less applicable. This means the theory lacks universality and may not generalize to non-Western or arranged relationship contexts. A limitation of social exchange theory is that it is culturally biased. The theory is based on Western, individualist values, where relationships are viewed as personal choices aimed at individual satisfaction. In contrast, collectivist cultures may prioritize family expectations or community benefits over personal gain, making SET less applicable. This means the theory lacks universality and may not generalize to non-Western or arranged relationship contexts. A limitation of social exchange theory is that much of the supporting research lacks external validity. Many studies are based on artificial tasks or use student samples in lab settings, which do not reflect the complexity of real romantic relationships. When real couples are studied, the results often fail to support SET, indicating a gap between theory and real-world application. Therefore, the theory's reliability is weakened due to its dependence on low ecological validity research. Equity theory. Equity theory is an economic model of relationships based on the principle of fairness between partners. It emphasizes that romantic relationships are most successful when there is a perceived balance between what each partner puts into, costs efforts, and gets out of, rewards benefits, the relationship. According to Wolster et al., 1978, the key to satisfaction is equity, not equality. Equity occurs when each partner's level of profit, defined as rewards minus costs, is roughly the same, even if the absolute inputs and outputs are different. This means that one partner may contribute more and also receive more, and the relationship can still be perceived as fair. When there is inequity in the relationship, i.e., when one partner perceives they are underbenefiting or overbenefiting, dissatisfaction can arise. The underbenefiting partner may experience, e.g., anger, resentment, and hostility, and the overbenefiting partner may experience guilt, discomfort, and shame. Equity theory proposes that both underbenefiting and overbenefiting lead to psychological discomfort, potentially reducing relationship satisfaction and increasing the risk of relationship breakdown. Perceived inequity can serve as a signal for the need to restore balance. Partners may attempt to re-establish fairness by changing their inputs, e.g., investing more or less effort time, changing their outcomes, e.g., seeking more appreciation or reducing what they receive, and changing their perception of inputs and outcomes, e.g., convincing themselves that the relationship is more fair than it appears. The willingness to restore equity depends on whether the underbenefiting partner believes fairness can be restored and whether they are motivated to continue the relationship. A strength of the equity theory as a theory of romantic relationships is that it is supported by real-world research evidence. Hatfield et al., 1984, surveyed newlywed couples and found that those who perceived their relationship as equitable were more likely to report higher satisfaction and stability. Similarly, Mary Utton, 1984, found that recently married couples who felt their relationship was fair were significantly more satisfied than those who felt under or over-benefiting. These findings support equity theory's central claim that fairness is crucial for relationship success. The use of self-report data from real romantic partners increases the theory's ecological validity, suggesting that its principles reflect how people actually perceive and experience relationships. Therefore, this evidence enhances the validity and credibility of equity theory as an explanation for relationship satisfaction. A limitation of the equity theory is that it does not account for individual differences in sensitivity to equity. Huseman et al., 1987, identified that not everyone seeks or values equity to the same extent. They described benevolents, who are happy to give more than they receive, and entitled's, who feel they deserve to overbenefit without guilt. This challenges the theory's assumption that perceived fairness is universally important in all relationships. Some individuals may be satisfied even in inequitable arrangements, meaning the theory lacks internal validity when applied to diverse personality types. As a result, equity theory may not offer a comprehensive or universally applicable explanation of romantic relationships. A limitation of equity theory is its lack of cross-cultural validity. Ormarayan et al., 2007, found that equity was more important in individualistic cultures such as the US, while in collectivist cultures, over-benefiting partners were often more satisfied. Similarly, Morgadam, 1983, found differences in preferences for fairness styles between US and European students. These findings suggest that equity is not a universal concept and that relationship satisfaction may be rooted in culturally specific values rather than a general desire for fairness. Therefore, the theory suffers from cultural bias, specifically beta bias, as it assumes that the desire for equity is consistent across all cultures, reducing its external validity. A limitation of equity theory is that it presents an oversimplified and mechanistic view of romantic relationships. Mills and Clark, 1982, argued that romantic relationships are based more on emotional connections and communal support rather than calculated exchanges of cost and benefit. They highlighted that inputs and outputs are often emotional and not easily measurable. This undermines the theory's face validity, as many people would not describe their relationship satisfaction purely in economic terms. Additionally, the theory fails to account for selfless motivations such as love or commitment, which often drive people to stay in or leave relationships. Hence, equity theory may devalue the emotional complexity of romantic relationships by reducing them to transactional exchanges. A limitation of equity theory is that it may be gender-biased. Makhung et al., 1989, found that equity was more important to women than to men, suggesting that men and women may evaluate fairness differently in relationships. This challenges the theory's assumption that both genders perceive and react to equity in the same way. If women are more sensitive to fairness, the effects of inequity, e.g., dissatisfaction or guilt, may differ depending on gender, which equity theory does not account for. This limits the theory's universality and generalizability, reducing its applicability across all relationships and genders. A limitation of equity theory is that it cannot explain why people stay in highly inequitable or abusive relationships. The theory assumes that dissatisfaction due to inequity leads to attempts to restore fairness or relationship dissolution. However, in many abusive relationships, the victim may continue to invest heavily despite receiving little or no benefit and may remain in the relationship long term. This suggests that other factors such as emotional dependency, fear, financial barriers, or trauma bonding may be more powerful than a simple equity calculation. Therefore, equity theory lacks explanatory power in extreme and complex relationship scenarios, reducing its holistic value. A strength of equity theory is that it improves upon earlier models like social exchange theory by focusing more on mutual fairness. While social exchange theory focuses on individual cost-benefit calculations, equity theory introduces the idea that fairness between partners is key to satisfaction. Walster et al., 1978, emphasized that what matters most is the relative profit being equal, not absolute equality. This makes equity theory more interpersonally nuanced, offering a more realistic depiction of relationship dynamics than models that assume people act purely out of self-interest. Thus, the theory offers a more balanced and relationally focused framework for understanding romantic satisfaction. Rusbolt's investment model. Rusbolt, 1980-1983, extended social exchange theory, SET, by proposing the investment model, which identifies commitment as the central factor in maintaining romantic relationships. According to this model, commitment is determined by three key components: satisfaction level, comparison with alternatives, and investment size. Satisfaction level refers to the extent to which the relationship meets an individual's emotional and practical needs. It is based on the perceived balance of positive experiences, e.g., love, support, companionship, against negative experiences, e.g., conflict, stress. When rewards outweigh costs and partners feel their emotional, domestic, and sexual needs are fulfilled, satisfaction is high. In turn, higher satisfaction tends to increase commitment to the relationship. Comparison with alternatives involves a person's assessment of whether their needs could be better met in an alternative situation, either by being single or entering a different relationship. If someone perceives that more attractive or fulfilling alternatives are available, their commitment to the current relationship may decrease. Conversely, if no better alternatives are perceived, or if alternatives seem less satisfying, the person is more likely to stay committed. Investment size refers to the resources associated with the relationship that would be lost if it were to end. Rusbolt distinguishes between two types of investment. Intrinsic investments are resources put directly into the relationship, such as time, effort, emotional energy, money, and self-disclosure. Extrinsic investments are resources that were not part of the relationship initially but became connected to it over time. These include shared possessions, mutual friends, children, and shared experiences or memories. The more someone has invested in a relationship, the more they stand to lose if it ends, which can increase their level of commitment. Commitment is viewed as the main predictor of relationship stability, rather than satisfaction alone. According to the model, high satisfaction, low availability of quality alternatives, and large investments all contribute to stronger commitment. High levels of commitment encourage individuals to maintain their relationships, even when facing difficulties. People who are highly committed are more likely to forgive, make sacrifices, and work through problems in order to preserve the relationship. A strength of Rusbolt's investment theory as a theory of romantic relationships is that it is supported by strong empirical evidence. For example, Le and Agnew, 2003, conducted a meta-analysis of 52 studies and found that commitment in romantic relationships was positively correlated with satisfaction, investment size, and low comparison with alternatives, exactly as Rusbolt's model predicts. This supports the validity of the model by demonstrating that these three factors reliably influence relationship commitment across a range of studies. Therefore, the theory is strengthened by consistent findings that back up its core assumptions, increasing its credibility as a robust explanation for relationship maintenance. A strength of Rusbolt's investment theory is its cross-cultural validity. For instance, Lin and Rusbolt, 1995, found similar patterns of commitment among American and Taiwanese students, while Van Langer et al., 1997, replicated these findings in Dutch samples. This suggests that the three components of the model, satisfaction, investment, and alternatives, are important in determining relationship commitment across different cultures. Thus, the theory may have universal relevance, making it a more globally applicable model of romantic relationships. A strength of the investment model is its explanatory power in real-life situations, such as abusive relationships. Rusbolt and Motz, 1995, found that women in abusive relationships were more likely to return to their partners if they had high levels of investment and lacked attractive alternatives. This suggests the model can explain why individuals remain in relationships even when satisfaction is low, which other theories such as social exchange theory fail to account for. This real-world applicability increases the model's value, as it helps understand and potentially support individuals in difficult relationship situations. A strength of Rusbolt's investment model is that it has been developed further to increase its explanatory power. Agnew et al., 2008, proposed an extension to include future investment plans and goals that individuals hope to achieve with their partner, such as marriage or buying a home. This addition recognizes that people may remain committed not just due to current investments, but also because of what they stand to lose in terms of future expectations. This enhances the model's realism and relevance, offering a more complete picture of why relationships are maintained. A limitation of Rusbolt's investment model is that much of the supporting research relies on self-report methods. For example, participants are often asked to reflect on their levels of satisfaction, investment, and available alternatives via questionnaires or interviews. While this provides useful subjective insight, it may reduce the validity of the findings due to issues like social desirability bias or inaccurate recall. As a result, the conclusions drawn about the causes of commitment might not be entirely reliable, undermining the model's empirical foundation. A limitation of the investment model is that most of the evidence is correlational. Although studies show associations between the model's three factors and commitment, they do not establish causation. For instance, it may be that being highly committed to a relationship leads people to rate their satisfaction more positively or perceive fewer alternatives, rather than these factors leading to commitment. This weakens the strength of the model's explanatory claims, as it cannot conclusively determine cause and effect in relationship maintenance. A limitation of Rusbolt's investment theory is that it may be culturally biased. The theory is based largely on research conducted in Western, individualistic cultures that prioritize personal satisfaction and independence in relationships. In contrast, collectivist cultures may value family obligations or community expectations over personal investment or satisfaction, making the model less applicable in such contexts. Therefore, the model may not fully capture the dynamics of romantic relationships across all cultures, limiting its generalizability. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.